Hello and welcome back to the All New, All Different Number One Comics podcast. We are doing the We Read a Comic. I never know exactly how to phrase this when I introduce it. I don't know, sub show, bonus episode. We'll call it a bonus episode. Why the hell not? Either way, I'm Dan. I am here with my two guest co-hosts today, Benny and Yiding. How are you guys? How's it going?
Doing pretty good, Dan.
Yeah, no complaints here.
Really awesome to have both of you guys here. This is cool because I always would, I always tell everybody like I would love to have like a few people on and have a discussion, and it's always hard to get that to line up. Like everybody's got such different schedules and everything, and we're like all over the place. I know you're on the West Coast, Yiding, and Benny, you're off somewhere in the Great White North, and I'm here in sunny Florida, so we're like kind of all over the place, but that's okay because we're meeting here and talking about comic books, so that's super fun. But yeah, like I said, this is the We Read a Comic podcast, and we definitely read a comic, that is for sure. We're gonna talk about it in just a few minutes, but I definitely want to introduce the book, or rather, Benny, you suggested this book. Can you please introduce it and like tell me why you suggested it?
All right, yeah. So today we read All the Devils Are Here, coming from Scout Comics. We have Jared Lujan writing and Matt Harding as the artist. I looked a bit into Matt Harding, but I couldn't find some background stuff on him. This seems to be the only thing he's worked on so far, but Lujan has worked on Crash and Troy and Dry Foot. But this story, a quick synopsis, Mr. Garcia is an exorcist, and he has been summoned to go help somebody exorcise a demon. And in doing so, he has to enter a mindscape of the person who is possessed, who happens to be schizophrenic, which we'll probably deep bit into later into the episode. And in the mindscape, he has to fight along some memories to fight a demon called Corson. And along with him, Mr. Garcia, also known as Eater, are three demons that come in green, yellow, and red text boxes. Each of the demons have a bit of their own personality, with green being somewhat supportive, yellow being somewhat obstinate and rude at times, and red downright bestial. But they help him with some summoning tools, and together they have to fight quite literally hand to hand with some demons.
I love that too because JC's little nickname in there is the Eater and like the whole time I'm sitting here wondering why the hell are they calling this guy the Eater? What's going on with that name and everything? And then we get like right towards the end of the book and it starts to make a little more sense. But yeah, pretty wacky reveal on the name there. Benny, do you have like any history with this book? Did you read it when it first came out, or were you a part of the? I just had recently realized, and Yiding, I don't know if you knew about this or not. We talked a little bit off air, of course, but this was like a Kickstarter first before it got picked up by Scout. So were either of you like involved in the history of this at all? Do either of you like contribute to the Kickstarter or anything?
No, before Benny mentioned the book, it was not on my radar at all. So
Gotcha.
Yes, I actually was just wandering around the local comic shop, and the cover was so striking to me that I just had to know what the inside was. It depicts the Eater in a profile picture with half of his face kind of flaring off. I'll might not be good quality, but I can hold up a picture here of the main cover that I found just extremely striking, and I was really happy going forward with a lot of the artwork we can get into a little bit, but it was a real just seeing the cover and having to know what's on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always love that because I don't know. Obviously, I'm a little bit older than both of you guys, so I'll throw that out there, but a little bit. But I always love picking things up just based on like not knowing anything about it. It's one of my favorite things. Like I remember being like a teenager and stuff, and going to dig through CDs and stuff like that, and just picking something based on the cover, like knowing nothing about the band, knowing nothing about what was inside, and same thing with comics. And it's always fun because sometimes you can find these really cool like hidden gems that you would have never checked out before. Sometimes you find some absolute shit that you want to toss out, but it's a risk and it's fun. Like that's always fun. So that's like a cool way of browsing through comics, Benny. I really really dig that. So again, we were talking about this a little bit off air, and like I said, it was Kickstarter first. It got picked up by Scout and everything. This book is like in the comic book news, zeitgeist, everything this week. And again, we just talked about it before we hit record. Benny, you did not know that when you suggested this book. So, and really, to tell you the truth, you suggested the book before the news was out there. So, I think after you suggested the book, and then I went to pick up my copy, went to do a little bit more research about it and stuff like that. I just happened to be in a online comic book group where they talk about comic books, a little bit of speculation and all that. And articles started popping up, and I was like, well, that's a damn coincidence that we're talking about this book this week and there's articles about it. So Benny, what I wanted to tell you about it, and I'm sure Yiding wants to interject a little bit here and talk about some of it too, some of the stuff that he knows, but this book is a big, like, I can't say controversy, but the subject or whatever of what's going on with the book it's because of Scout Comics who published this book. And the problem is the creator posted, I don't know if it was on X or Instagram or something. It was somewhere, like some kind of avenue online, that they hadn't heard from Scout Comics since the book got published. They haven't been paid for the book. The book was delivered on time. They're seeing like pretty good sales from it and everything, but they haven't gotten any actual sales figures from the publisher. And again, they hadn't got paid. So from there, Scout put out a statement too. And Yiding, I don't know if you looked at any of the statements that Scout put out.
I have not. No.
Okay,
you know more about this than I do.
Good. Okay, cool. So this is breaking news to everyone. But yeah, Scout put out a statement, kind of saying like, yeah, we messed up. We are the bad guys here. We haven't been responsive to our creators. We take this really seriously. Blah blah blah. Here's a person that you can get a hold of if you're a creator, and we haven't gotten back with you and all of this, kind of like a blanket statement like that. Well, the creator here, and again, let me pull up his first name. So, Jared, the creator here, posted again, as a response to that. He was like, yeah, I've reached out to the CEO or whoever the person is, and yeah, I followed up and blah, 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 and I'm still not getting any follow through here. So even after Scout came out with this statement, kind of apologizing for the whole thing, Jared still has not heard anything from anybody. So this is kind of a pretty big deal, pretty crazy that a publisher would, kind of screw around somebody like that. I mean, the three of us know comic book writers, artists, all that, are pretty damn underpaid. Like they're not, making millions of dollars or anything. They're definitely, depend on the check from turning in their projects on time and everything. And Jared was very forward about that. Hey, I did my work. I turned everything in on time. Like, I don't know what the issue is here. So that's pretty screwed up. Kind of sucks. I didn't know. I have lots of Scout books, but I don't know much about Scout as a publisher. I don't know if either of you do.
Oh, no, I'm pretty new to them, but I am very glad to hear that Jared is going very public about this kind of thing, because as a creator in this kind of day and age, it can be very difficult to work with your company. I know companies like YouTube are very notorious for being hard to communicate with for a lot of uploaders, and you need to have a very prominent voice a lot of times just to see any kind of results whenever you want to see a bit of change. And it kind of feels like creators get yanked around on a chain a lot by the corporate ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, just some pretty crazy news. I thought, Yiding, is that was that your experience? Is that the same thing that you read? Do you have anything like, different you wanted to add to that part of the conversation? Or?
I think one thing that's worth mentioning is that so Luhan mentioned that, like, when he was like going back and forth with Scout about this, like one thing like that Scout did was they threatened him by saying like, if you go public with this. We're gonna blacklist you from
Oh my God.
from them comics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I
Which is,
see. I hadn't even like dug enough in the trenches to see things like that. Wow, that's crazy. That's insane. Oh,
and this is not like this is not the first time you've heard. You hear stories about like this. This is not the first time I've heard something like this. Like like I can't remember like the who and the what now at this moment, but like this is something like that's almost word for word like what's happened in the past. Where like a creator would like not be getting paid, and like when they were like discussing it with the publisher would threaten like blacklisting. I think Steve Lieber mentioned that about like a publisher that he worked with in the past, or maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. But yeah, this is definitely like an age-old story, sadly.
yeah, it's sad, especially that you could work with a publisher. I mean, I'm not trying to say that Scout is any huge publisher or anything like that, but at least in my local comic book shop, like in my area and everything, Scout books are always out. They always have Scout books. I pick up Scout books, like I said. There's quite a few that I read and everything. So it's not like they're like some super small like indie publisher, like 90s like kitchen sink or anything like that. Like their books are out there. We all have pretty much have access to them and everything. So like I'm wondering how their deals, how they're dealing with these creators. Like are they signing contracts and agreements and stuff? Are they doing like a gentleman's handshake over the internet? Like what's going on here? Pretty crazy.
And it is really terrifying to just see artists sometimes smothered or blacklisted. Like you said, Yiding, it's just to see it sometimes kills the creative spark for some people, where it just disheartens people purely because of the business side aspect of selling comics.
Mark Waid, he wrote about this on social. He responded to this whole thing on social media, and like one thing that he pointed out, I think like is very much like worth keeping in mind for creators is he said nobody in comics has the power to blacklist you. Like not even like some head honcho at Marvel and DC can blacklist you. I mean, the worst thing to do is blacklist you from their company. Like nobody has that kind of reach within the industry to like blacklist you like from other publishers.
Sure, yeah. Run over to Image, go to somewhere else. Absolutely. Sad though, like really, really sad. And again, like I don't want to hijack the whole conversation. Obviously, we want to talk about the book too. And definitely talk about the work that the creators put in, because that's what's important here. But yeah, just a really sad scenario, really, really crazy. And I can't believe that that's going down, in 2024, like in modern comics. That's so insane that that's what's happening there. So I talk to a lot of creators. I have people on the show all the time who have been doing this for years and years and years. And then I've got people who just put out their first book and everything. And like you just pointed out, Benny, and you're an up and coming creator. You published your first book or something, and you get jerked around. Like, I mean, that's going to kind of taint the whole experience for you. Are you going to want to go back and do it again after that? Maybe not. Like some people we might be losing some potential like masterpieces because of this. That sucks. Really, really bad. So anyways, I just wanted to get that out there. That's all my thoughts on it. And, if either of you have anything else you want to say about it, please do. But, if not, then we'll just go ahead and move on and talk about the book.
I am very glad we put aside some time to talk about that, because publication is a really big part of this hobby for all of us. And it's good to kind of keep an eye on just how the general things are moving around.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good to, keep it out there and keep that information, get it out to the public and everything. And like you said, Yiding, I'm glad that there's, big creators and out there and stuff responding to this and giving their input and everything, because, it does take that. Some of these people might be very, very scared. I'm sure for Jared, he's probably terrified. He had to go on social media or whatever on the internet and blast his publisher. But shit, I mean, the dude's got to get paid for his work. So just crazy. So getting back over to the book here, you gave your rundown of it, Benny. I do want to read the synopsis just from Scout really quick, just so, everyone listening can have like a little bit of, context from the, that side of it. Joe is an elderly dementia patient that becomes possessed with a powerful demon. In order to save him, an unconventional and mysterious exorcist, J.C. Garcia, must venture into his mind. Once inside, he finds far more than he bargained for, an ever-changing hellscape created by a fusion of Morris's and the demon's memories that brings JC face to face with his own traumatic past. All the Devils Are Here reinvents the exorcism story with a unique emotional tale about the power of love, loss, and memory. So that is their synopsis that they, use their, description they used to sell the book on. Let's talk about the book, because I definitely had to read this. I read this book 3 times to really kind of get in my head what was going on, because I'm not going to lie, I do like it, but it's very abstract in places. It's not super conventional. I mean, once you break down the story, it's a conventional, straightforward story, but there's a lot of abstract stuff going on as well. I don't even know how to ask this question. What was your narrative takes on it?
Is it definitely the kind of story where you don't really get the full picture? Like, you don't really understand the shape of it until you reach the end. Yeah, at which point it sort of all coheres.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it did feel like a lot of strings kind of flailing around for a little bit, but near the end of it, tying together in a narrative. We talked a little bit how the patient who's possessed is schizophrenic, and he has demons possessing him, so his mindscape is very chaotic and can sometimes be a little weird to follow. But I do think Matt Harding is good at paneling and leading the eye from one sequence to another, which can be very helpful in action scenes.
Well, let me point this out or pose this to you guys. At first, when I read this story, I was like, this probably isn't for me. It's a little too disjointed. It's very abstract. There's a lot going on. But once I really put myself in the headspace of the story that they were trying to tell here, which is, again, like, if you take it for, straightforward as it is an exorcism story based on a dementia patient and, who's made a pact with, a demon or devil or something in that realm, and it needs to be exorcised. So this guy comes in and exorcises that. But again, we get into that hellscape of what's going on through, and it's hard for me to, probably explain this, but he basically creates this portal, to go inside his dementia patient's mind and kind of what's going on and everything. So he gets in there, and like you said, he's schizophrenic. He's got, what, 4? Is it 3? I guess 4 altogether, because him and then the other 3 voices going on. So this story has to be disjointed and very chaotic. There's no other way to tell it, because, again, our hero is schizophrenic. He's talking to multiple voices in his head, and he's in a dementia patient's mind who's possessed by a demon. So there's so much crazy stuff going on here. Like, it's like, how can we pack this and pack this and pack this in to where it's just batshit crazy, because there's so much insanity going on. It's such a weird tale.
Small point of order. I'm not sure that Garcia is actually schizophrenic. I think that might just be the patient. Garcia,
really?
The main lead,
Okay.
might just be possessed by a couple minor demons. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think that's more of a. I think that's more of a magical situation than a medical condition for him at the moment.
Okay.
But
okay.
he does have voices in his head one way or another that do tell him conflicting things that he does have to put up with. So it is a bit of a simile.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I didn't even catch that. That's what I assumed, was going on. But maybe there's some context I didn't get there. But it's so interesting. I want to talk about the art, definitely, because you were kind of just saying, but it's Matt, and again, we'll get Matt Harding here, who did the art. The art, it's very chaotic. There's, especially when we get to the hellscape and everything, there's so much craziness going on, so much atmosphere and everything. It looks really cool. I really dig this art a lot. I think it's a really good compliment to Jared's writing and everything. Some of you can tell that the guy's like very versatile because in the calm scenes and everything, and in the stuff where we're seeing the patient like in the bed before we like really go into that hellscape in his mind and everything. Some really good art, and then the more fantastical stuff is just crazy. It's crazy. You never know what to expect. How about this demon that's in the dude's mind? Corson, is that the demon's name? Is that
Corson? Yeah.
Okay, Corson. I mean, the character design on that dude, like, what the hell's going on there?
Yeah,
we gotta talk about how Corson looks. Yeah.
Please, yeah.
This artist absolutely went to town with some of the designs. Like the demon designs here, like they are just. He had no reason. He had no need to go this hard, but I'm glad he did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This main demon, Corson, he has a dashing purple outfit with red highlights. Big thick arms with a bunch of eyes popping out,
right.
And a somewhat skeleton face with the top half drawn back and a floating eye in the middle. And it really is, I think, inspired demon design.
Especially the face. That face.
I mean, that face is out there. Yeah, I was trying to figure out the whole time. What do I have to grasp onto here? Like, I'm not like. I mean, and I'm cool with that. It's very abstract. Like we're in a, hellscape, like we're in another dimension basically. So anything can happen. But I was like, what do I go to here? Like I don't have like that traditional face to look at or anything. There's no features or anything. This character is very, very weird. Like you were saying, Benny's got like, I don't know. It's almost like he has some wool or something on his arm with a bunch of eyes stuck in it. I have no idea. I have no clue other than maybe Matt was just like, this is a effed up demon. Let me make it like insane looking. I don't know. if we got notes from Jared on what Jared wanted or what. There's a scene towards the end. Hopefully you guys will recall this. Excuse me. And it's when JC is like climbing up some stairs or something. And maybe it's not quite towards the end, but maybe it's in the latter half. But JC turns around and like half of his face is missing, and there's like red, like a red void. Does anybody recall that?
Yeah, I was looking at that, and that looks to be that happens a couple times, and I'm pretty sure that's whenever he's walking through one of the red portals, it just shows him midway of walking through the portal, where half of him is on the other side already.
Good. I'm glad that you were able to answer that because I wasn't too sure. I was like, did he just scrape half of his face off? Like, what happened?
I think that's a very like effective special effect, basically. Like, they could have just like handled it the way like you would a typical like scene of somebody going through a portal, and we all know what that looks like. I don't need to describe it. We've seen it at the times. But this way with the part that's gone through the portal like shown as like cut off, that's just. There's a sense of like wrongness and there's a disturbing quality to it that like really fits the fact that this is taking place in this sort of like hellish dreamscape.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
You look at other modes of teleportation in media, and you have Nightcrawler's Banff, where he disappears in a puff of smoke, and that's demonic in its own right. And you have Star Trek, where they're like disintegrated particle by particle and beamed to another planet. And there's a lot of fun things you can do with teleportation depiction.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, this is cool. This is a really cool rendering of that. I really like that a lot. I think
actually, speaking of X-Men, are you guys what this reminds me of is have either of you read House of X, like the original Hickman series? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, in House of X, that's how the artists were, portraying, like in House of X and the other early stuff. I think that's how the artists were portraying the characters, like going through the Krakoan portals, where they were depicted the same way, where like the portal itself would like the frame of the portal, the circle would be like visible, but like there would be nothing inside there. Like when the artist like drew it, it'd be like completely transparent. You just see what's on the other side. There wasn't any glowing like screen or anything like that. It would just look like a hollow circle, you know. And like you look through it, and it's like there's nothing there. But once the characters like step through, then you know, like when their arm went through or whatever, then the arm would be cut off. And that was
it is very similar to the Krakoan Gates. Now that I think about it, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Except
that wasn't even there.
red and demonic.
Yeah, and I always thought, you know, that's such a cool effect, and you know, it really stands out compared to all like other kinds of like portal depictions. And it's something that got lost over time for whatever reason. Maybe like it just wasn't working. It was like hard to stage or whatever. I don't know. But like over time, like the X-Men books, like just stopped doing that, and like they just started drawing it as a typical portal, where like this big glowing circle, and I just thought, oh, that's a shame that they lost that.
Yeah, no, you're right, and yeah, thank you for pointing that out, because I had completely. There's been so much, I don't know, whatever Krakoan age X books that we got to tie in, you know, the Powers of X, House of 10, whatever, all that stuff going on, and I guess somewhere along the line they did kind of switch that up. Like maybe it was just that artist's interpretation a few times at the beginning, but yeah, really, really cool. This is so interesting. I don't know like what to link it to or anything. Have you guys ever seen? I'm not big on like exorcist stories. Like I've seen The Exorcist, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and maybe like 2 or 3 more other exorcism, you know, types of things. I can't recall too many exorcism comics. There was like the Exorcisters, which I remember reading like the first issue of, but I didn't go beyond that. Is there any other depictions of like exorcism and any other media that you guys could compare this to? Like I'm specifically talking about, you know, him creating that kind of portal, like on the patient's, you know, head and getting in there and everything.
Ooh, where you go right into the mindscape. It's not really exorcism, but tying it back to the X-Men. A lot of times in the old Claremont era, Professor X would go into somebody's mindscape, and it'd be very similar to this, where they're fighting in abstract places with non-conventional devices.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, a lot of times people are, I don't know how to word it. It's definitely not taking from, but maybe it's like that Simpsons effect where people say the Simpsons predicted this, or this already happened on the Simpsons, or that clever South Park episode where they're like, the Simpsons already did it for everything. X-Men has just been around so long. You know, so many people have done stuff with it, and there's been so many tie-in books and everything that if there's anything you can think of, then it's probably been an X-Men book at some point, which is super cool. Obviously, I love the X-Men, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, this story here is just. I'll give it this. While it was like abstract, it was wacky, it was all over the place, and even I, you know, had some misunderstandings with it, you know, because I was sitting here thinking, you know, that our exorcist was schizophrenic or something. It's so. What are words? You know, what can I say about this? It's so straightforward that the story just, you know, kind of begins out of nowhere. We don't get any context for anything. There's no exposition in this book. It's basically like your exposition is on that first page. Hey, you're the exorcist that's here to exorcise the demon out of my dad who has dementia. Cool. Like, let's do it. And then, you know, it's straightforward and makes it to the end. And it takes some weird steps along the way because of what's going on inside of his head and everything. But it's very interesting how, like, maybe catalyst isn't the right word. Again, you guys correct me. You guys are much smarter than I am. But the thing that gets this whole pact going, you know, it's basically our dementia patient, Joe, I think his name is, and he wants to kind of hang on to those memories of his dead wife.
Yes, he is struggling to hold on to things of his wife, so he forms a pact with Corsair in order to create a kind of memory of her in her mind, who is a character in her own right, the memory of Mrs. Morris, who is actually one of the ones to kind of resolve the conflict. It's ultimately resolved with them to very sadly parting ways, and him accepting that he has dementia in a way.
Yeah, and we have to remember too, dementia is obviously something, it comes like in stages or whatever. Like you get to the point where it's really bad towards the end and everything. I'm assuming, he's kind of at like the end of this journey. I would guess, but I don't know because of the possession and everything. Again, that kind of skews it for me at least. But it seemed like he was kind of like towards the end of his journey, with dementia and everything, and maybe after this demon gets exorcised and everything, like maybe he'd kind of be ready to go. I don't know. I don't know how you guys read that. But yeah, this is interesting. I'm going to say this. One of the most interesting points to me was whether we love the book, we don't like the book, we're somewhere in between, like whatever. That's all aside. But it's very interesting because you kind of created this character, this almost like better than John Constantine type of character, and who could go on these crazy like missions and everything, and it's in like a one shot, and then we're done with it. Like it's so wacky. Like I wonder why this wasn't pitched as like an ongoing. Like why didn't plan on like doing more with this? Like what's going on with it?
I found that, and this is not something I have like a terrible amount of experience with, so my impression could be misleading, but like I found that like this is something you see quite a bit of on Kickstarter, like one shot stories, like this 20 page, 30 page, 40 page, whatever, like one shot story about this concept, and then the creator moves on. Like the next project is like a completely different story that's also a one shot project, a one shot story. And maybe that just has to do with like the economic realities of Kickstarter and what gets funded. Like maybe lots of Kickstarter creators would love to do like mini series, but they just know that's just like impossible to get funded. I don't know.
Yeah, because this does kind of set up for a villain of the week style premise, and does leave you with questions for the main character, but it's hard to say just how long it will go on for, how long an idea can pan out, because most of that depends on how editorial treats creators and creator burnout in general.
Sure. Yeah. And obviously, I guess probably good thing, they didn't sign Jared to like any type of deal here or anything, because that probably wouldn't have been going very well. Probably a good thing that it was a one shot. I wonder if that plays into the fact that the way Scout, kind of acted too, like maybe, they have more of a reason to pay their creators that are doing like ongoings and everything, so they can deliver that next issue and stuff, and they kind of knew like, hey, we can just jerk this guy around, like we don't need anything else from him, he turned in the material, whatever. It's a one shot. But I always love to think of, I obviously love comics, I love the medium and all of that. I always like to think of things in terms of like, what else, how could I see this in like another form of media? How would this fare as like a movie, like an animated feature, a series, a television show, any of that? And that's why I brought that up, because I think that this, with the exception of the really fantastical abstract stuff in here, which, would probably cost a lot of money if you were to do like some kind of live action thing, I think this would be a very compelling story like to see on screen. I think it might explain a little bit more that was left kind of probably a little bit easier for you guys to understand, but me with my low IQ here didn't grab everything out of the story. So I wonder how it would fare on something like that. Do you guys think this would play well as like a movie or anything?
It would, I think, but what it reminded me the most of was like some prose short story, because it's quite short,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like and it feels like the sort of thing you sometimes see in prose, fantasy fiction or sci-fi fiction, where it's like it's it's a one-shot story, but like it implies like more, like where the creator has like the writer in case of prose, has just like come up with like this like very fascinating character. But like but instead of like doing like a whole like 3-book series or a whole giant novel about it, there's like they just dip in and out,
Yep.
it's like, and there's all this implied like conceptual like richness behind it, but the story itself is just like a really short thing implying all that.
Yeah, it feels like it's something cut out from a bit of a larger world or universe,
Yes.
but it is self-contained mostly. It's funny you bring up other mediums, because this story really reminded me a lot of an audio drama of a similar setup where the main character has to live with a devil or a demon in their head that only he can hear. And that moves over to, obviously that only has an audio medium and has no visuals, and it's really interesting to see how it's stylistically a bit different, because in this you see the captions of the demons in very different colored boxes. It kind of shows that they have individual personalities, but in audio things can get a bit messier. The audio levels are harder to balance, and things can just sound a bit like droning noise if there's too much of it. So it has to be handled with a lot more care, I would say, just with different individuals speaking over each other. But with a book like this, you can have a bunch of different things going on at once, and that's some of the intent, to have it be purposely messy at times.
Well, it is nice too that they can, like you kind of pointed out there, they have their individual. And I mean, I'm going to call them word balloons. They're not traditional word balloons. They're kind of like that labeled text or whatever. But they each have their individual text. The fonts are like a little off. Their the boxes are colored different and everything. So they get their own time, to not kind of talk over each other and all of that, and kind of say what they need to say. And I was just thinking when you said that, there was a point in this book where one of the characters, it might have been the overall demon, speaking to JC and saying that he has like weaker demons, or something to that effect. And yeah, I guess that was kind of wasted on me. That must have been where I missed the fact that he's not the schizophrenic one or whatever. But yeah, just somehow in my mind, that's what I was kind of getting out of this. But it is interesting. The beginning of it, you kind of see JC sitting out in that waiting area, and he's got his headphones on, and he's really trying to like block out like everything. And then whenever he goes in, he's kind of encouraging it. It seems like so.
My read on it was that he wears the headphones to block out those 3 voices in his head,
Yeah.
so that because otherwise they're just going to constantly be chattering at him and distracting.
Yeah.
The ending really supports that, where it ends with him just putting on the headphones and cutting off the voices, and having 3 other people in your head 24/7 would be extremely stressful. I know one is more than enough at times. You would have to have something to just kind of constantly take your mind off it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that eternal monologue sometimes is just more than enough. I can't imagine having anything else in there.
One thing that I found interesting was that, they never depict what these other 3 demons look like.
Right.
There's never for a single like panel where like we see like, some like floating image of them like screaming at him or whatever. It's, and because that's something that, could easily have been done. It's obviously a deliberate choice not to do it. And I think it's an effective choice. I mean, first of all, it keeps it a bit ambiguous at first about what they are, which I think is the intent, because we're not supposed to know exactly what's going on at first. We're supposed to gradually realize, this is what's happening. But also, there's this sense where, it's almost like, any depiction of them would just be like disappointing, because like, the fact that we have no idea like what horrible appearance they have, that I think that goes a long way. Like it makes it all very haunting. It makes this whole situation feel a lot more haunting, that we have no idea what these three demon dudes look like.
It's like in a horror movie, you're not showing your monster at the very start. You kind of have them cutting around at the edge of the screen and being blurry until kind of a final lead when there's a reveal. But there's not a reveal for these inner demons, which I'm very glad for, because I don't think they need. There's maybe some hints where they show Eater is covered in these tattoos that kind of come to life when he asks the voices in his head for some of their power or just weapons to fight with. And there's these stylistic weapons like a skull mace or a tentacle sword that seem to be kind of demonically influenced, but the actual figures are kept to well-colored squares.
Yep. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, that's something else that I kind of forgot to point out there. Whenever he gets those weapons from those demons or whatever, they're very interesting. It's funny, you get to that point in the book and you're kind of expecting some traditional weapons or something for him to be able to fight these demons with, and then he comes up with this really wacky stuff. Stuff you can't even explain. You definitely have to crack the book open to check that out. But just really, really weird. This whole book. That's if I had to review it, to somebody else, recommend it to somebody else or whatever, I would say this. It's fun. It's straightforward enough. And narratively and all of that. If you're as simple as me, you might miss out on some things. And the art's really, really good, but it's wacky. Like, look at it for the visuals. Definitely, I would say, not to say anything negative of the story or anything like that, because I do think it's a pretty good story, and I'd actually like to see more of it. I think that there's like a whole universe open to tell more stories in this world. I think that the art outshines the storytelling. Definitely. I think that the art is like the real hero in this book, and it's really, really good. And I would be fine following this with no dialogue whatsoever. It's a really good visual book, really, really good. And again, we're not here for that. Like, we don't have to do like recommendations or anything. I mean, obviously, we all read the book and we have opinions on it. I do want to talk about the Kickstarter because I just pulled it up here. Just really quick, like kind of before we close out. It had a $5,000 goal and they hit 8,255. So they overexceeded that goal, and I wonder if that kind of helped with the getting Scout on board to publish it and all of that. I wonder. I hope there was no lost opportunity here. I hope that another publisher didn't come to the table and they ended up going with Scout for whatever reason and then didn't get paid. But whatever. I mean, it sucks. But
I will say,
yeah, go ahead.
Go on. No, go ahead.
I was wondering if this was a project where the Scout Comics version is like the first version, like the first published version, or whether like it's one of those Kickstarters where they originally released like a self-published version for the Kickstarter backers, and then after that they figured like, well, we already have this completed comic, let's shop it around and see if any publishers will also want to put it out in a more traditional format. And I hope it's the latter, because then the creators would have been much less screwed in that situation.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. I mean, that's what it's looking like here. It looks like there was print copies of the book and everything released to the, maybe not in local comic book shops or anything, but at least given out as Kickstarter rewards or something. There's quite a few variants and stuff that aren't listed online as well, that are only on the Kickstarter. So hopefully all that came out and they got paid from all of that. I mean, it's not while it's a very successful Kickstarter, they got over $8,000 and only asking for $5,000. It's not one of those crazy ones that people put up and they're asking for, I don't know, $10,000, and then within like 30 minutes of it being up, it's at like a $250,000 or something. So that definitely happens. I mean, you see some of those really big name creators sometimes go on there and do stuff, and it's funded in seconds. So Kickstarter's an interesting avenue. Yeah, go ahead, Benny.
Self-publishing can be very difficult, but with how connected we are, it can be sometimes very nice to just put your voice out there to look for some fundraising. With hearing all the stuff about Scout Comics today, personally, I'm gonna be bit hesitant when shopping from them or looking at some of the stories with a grain of salt from now on. I feel I'll have to do a bit more background research whenever I feel like purchasing from them, which is important, but it's sad to hear just that another comic industry is giving their creators a rough time.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really horrible to hear. You know, we never want to hear anything like that. You always think, you know, in this community, there's so many awesome creators, publishers, and all of that. There's so many supportive people out there. I mean, you know, just bringing these creators on the show to talk about their upcoming books and stuff. So supportive of one another, so supportive of the industry, so supportive of up and coming creators. You know, giving this solid advice. You know, that you wouldn't find in many other professions. You know, people trying to come in and they're like, yes, do it. Like, come on, here's all the advice I can give you in the world. You know, so yeah, it sucks whenever you hear something negative like that, but hey, it exists. There's shitty people everywhere. So hopefully, you know, Scout is embarrassed by this. They learn from it and they do something to make it better, and then they don't do that again in the future. I guess that's really all we can hope for, because I don't know what else.
Yeah, earlier I was, you know, when you were relating the whole story, I was like surprised by their response, your initial response. Because I was thinking, oh, that's, you know, that's nice, because like that's better than you usually get in these situations. Like in most of the stories of this sort, like, you know, the publisher, when called out, will just like make excuses or
Yep.
just like go radio silent, you know, and you know that they actually like, you know, addressed it and said, yes, you know, we screwed up, you know, it's all on us. I thought, oh, okay, that's refreshing. But
Yep.
then, you know, you kept on going, and like apparently, you know, that was just words, you know, that was performative. So never mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some damage
it's
control from them.
right. They were like, let's get some PR out there really, really quick. And, you know, we still won't make good, though. We'll make sure that we don't pay anybody for their stuff. But yeah, sad to hear. You know, hopefully Jared and the team get, you know, what they deserve from this. And I'm sure they will. But, you know, I think that'll about wrap it there. Benny, I know you're going to see Dune Part 2. Are you excited about that?
Ooh, yeah. My favorite giant monsters are sandworms, just because they're simplistic design and they're the perfect killing machine. They're just a big sharp mouth. So very excited to see that and all the sound effects. Especially because somebody's treating me to it.
Oh, very cool. Well, that's even better. Nothing better than a free movie. I don't know if you got my joke in the Discord about the popcorn bucket. Again.
Yes,
okay,
I
good,
might
good.
buy the controversial popcorn bucket, maybe just as a joke, but depending on how expensive it is, I might get it.
Yes. Yeah, really cool. Yeah, you'll have to let us know how that was. I'm excited to hear some reviews about it. You know, just in closing, there, I'm sure Dune will fare very well, like the first part did, and all of that. I would just like to say, and again, if you guys have your own opinions about this, it's perfectly fine. That's what we're all here for, to have our own opinions and not just, you know, follow the herd. But there's been so much hate the last like month or so. Madam Web has been, you know, the top of what everybody wants to talk about and how horrible of a movie it is and all of this. I hate that, because, you know, I went to the theater and saw it. I actually really liked the movie. It was not a 10 at all. I mean, I didn't expect it to be, but it was a fun movie, and I really enjoyed it. And I suggest people go out and see it, and don't just join that hype, you know, of like, oh, let's just blast this thing because everyone else is saying it's horrible. I mean, you know, people online say things are horrible. That's what they do. Yeah, there's definitely things about it that could have been a lot better, but there's really enjoyable stuff in there, and it's not a bad movie at all. So
yeah, form your own opinion on things.
exactly right. I mean, what happened to that? Like, you know, we used to see things, read things, whatever, and say, oh, I like this or I don't like this. and it was part of your personality, and it was a brand you could put on yourself, or whatever. And now it's just like, let's follow that herd. Everybody's saying this is bad. I want to say it's bad too. So
yeah, I think part of the problem is like it's now become part of people's personalities. It's
yep.
like this is for a lot of people, this is what I do. I'm the guy who trashes this thing because
yep.
because it gets me engagement, and it gets people like because everybody likes to pile on. That's the thing, especially if it's funny or humorous, or if it's genuinely clever or witty, like people love a good pile on. Like, and I feel like every time like you see that sort of thing, like it starts at some point, it becomes disingenuous. Even if like initially like dislike was real, at some point it just becomes like you start at some point, it's very obvious that they're just looking for reasons to continue to trash this thing. Like, I haven't watched Madam Web, but like I've seen like some of the comments online, and there are some comments where like it's very, very obvious that like this person is like looking to go in here with like they're purposely looking at everything through the worst, like most negative light possible, through through the least charitable interpretation. Like there will be like a screen cap of a scene or whatever. Is that called screen cap? Is it a screen cap if there's actually motion? I don't know. Like they'll just they'll post like a small scene from the film, and they'll go like, oh, look how horrible this is. And I'm thinking like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's a perfectly like normal, like innocuous scene. Like,
yep.
like your reaction is so over the top that like, it tells me that you're approaching this from like a point of just disingenuousness. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And you have to remember a lot of these people, who want to do that pile on, they're the ones who have the superhero fatigue. They're the ones that, are done with Marvel movies, DCU, whatever. Like, they're the ones who, they're the Martin Scorsese fanboys who don't want to see a comic book movie anyways. They're not going to see it, so they just hop online and say it's garbage. They were going to do it whether it was something at the level of like Endgame. Either way, so whatever. But I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm happy that you're going to see Dune Part 2, Benny, and I hope that it's awesome, and I hope that you really enjoy it. And yeah, I can't thank you guys enough. This was Benny, especially, thank you so much for suggesting this book. It was really fun to read, really crazy. I'm going to have nightmares about it for the next week now, so thank you for that. But yeah,
I'm going to have positive dreams about it, I think.
Right? Yeah, I hope so. But it was cool. It was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. And yeah, I'm happy that we could get on and talk about it. I'm really happy that we could get on and address Scout's shady business and get it, at least more attention put on it, hopefully, and all of our listeners, you guys write a mean email to Scout. Stick it to the man, but you tell me they're creative. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today to talk about this book. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed having both of you on.
Right on. Take care, everyone.
Great time.
Yeah.